So welcome. I'm Annette Litherland from New Zealand Landcare Trust, Regional Coordinator. And Dianne, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dianne Zucchetto. I'm from Specialise. I'm the geospatial consultant that will help you through your mapping queries and show you how to map your farm using Google My Maps.
Okay, will you have the next slide, please, Dianne? So this is a 1 hour, just to give you a brief overview of farm mapping. We're going to go briefly through what is in a farm environment plan, what it is and what it should be in it, and then we're going to go through some farm mapping, how to make your own farm map and the location of your farm within a catchment. And yes, I've emailed out some of the demonstration examples. So yeah, next slide, please. So all of you would be aware now that if you have a property greater than 30 hectares, the rules are coming in that you will require a farm environment plan. I'm encouraging landowners, particularly in the Moutere catchment, to also complete farm environment plans, and we have a lot of resources on our website to help smaller farms do a sort of abbreviated farm environment plan. So it is a tool. I'm a great believer in farmers doing this themselves as much as they can, but you can get a professional to come in and do it, and there may be aspects of it that you actually can't do, and you may need some experts to help you with that. At the moment, for Tasman and Nelson, and I think also Marlborough, there is no defined farm environment plan coming from the council. So in that case, I think you should start with what generally is in a farm environment plan and work from there. Each property will have a completely different environment plan. It will depend on your local environment, the type of farming operation, and the goals and aspirations that you have. I think it's the type of farming operation. So if you're a sheep and beef farmer, I highly recommend you going along to a beef and land farm environment planning workshop. Oh, that didn't work. They give you a great folder to start with. If to do a farm environment plan, the next one's in June the 18th. So book yourself in. It's a really great, it's an upgrade for what they were producing. It's newly out and it's a great folder and it has everything you need in there. If you are a dairy farmer, then book yourself in with Fonterra or your milk company and they will do a farm environment plan for you. So next slide. So what should be in a farm environment plan? It's the farm details, your vision and goals. You have a farm map, which identifies all the significant infrastructure and natural features. And it's an assessment of risk from your farming activities on water quality. So that would include things like what are the issues. The thing I would always start with, particularly around water, is what are the issues in your catchment that are there. So if your issues, for instance, we've got somebody from the Sherry River here, the Sherry River's issues are largely E. coli. So your farm environment plan could really focus and hone in on what that issue is in the river. It should include good management practices, and that's where some of the templates that I've sent out of the examples might help, and should include your soil health, runoff, E. coli, all those sorts of things are interrelated to soil health, to your nitrate. There may be a requirement, and we don't know for our area at the top of the south, for a nutrient budget. Sheep and beef farmers' nutrient budgets often show that phosphate is risk and nitrates are less. That nutrient budget you normally have to pay for, and it comes through your fertiliser company often. You might want to have your streams, your wetlands, your ponds all identified in your plan and your strategies around that, particularly around nitrogen, phosphorus, sediment, E. coli, water temperature, O2 contaminants, macroinvertebrates, algae, weeds, and habitat. And before that feels completely overwhelming, all of that is in that farm plan for your sheep and beef farmers. I would also, when I'm doing a farm environment plan, also be looking at biodiversity and your bush areas, and I'd also be doing greenhouse gases. All farms within the next couple of years need to have the greenhouse gas calculated, so put that into your farm environment plan too, so you don't have another thing on top of it. And Beef and Lamb is about to release a calculator for that. Once again, the farm environment plan from Fonterra out of Overseer will have greenhouse gases in there. Then the next thing that your thing must have is identification of some actions. Take some before and after photos so that you can demonstrate what you're doing, and design your farm environment plan around water to try and get those aspects that are below the green level, the good level. Really focus on getting the water quality in your catchment into that green level, and then you shouldn't have any problems. So focus on those key issues. Next slide, please. Right, I'm going to hand over to Dianne, and please put any questions that you have or comments into the chat room.
Thank you, Ian. That was a really good overview of what should be in a farm environment plan. And part of your farm environment plan is your farm map. So what should you include on your farm map? You can start with your property boundary, your farm boundary, because these might be different, your land management units or farm blocks, waterways such as your rivers, streams, watercourses, your water bodies such as your farm dams, lakes and wetlands, riparian zones, fence lines adjacent to water bodies and waterways, stock crossings, tracks and races, and your critical source areas such as overland flow paths, yards, animal holding areas, standing pads, feed out areas, effluent application areas, erosion prone areas, etc. So to be able to make a farm map, there's several tools that you can use. So, and these start at the very basic level with Google My Maps and go to the more advanced levels such as QGIS. And so these are free mapping tools that you can use. And the council also has an online map that you can use as well. You can map your areas, your features on the council one as well, but you can't save your map to go back to. So this webinar will focus on using Google My Maps for creating your farm map. This is because Google My Maps is the most simple and easy to use tool where you do not need to download any software or save your files to your computer. All of your data is saved in Google, and you can view your map on the Google Maps app on your mobile phone or tablet. So you don't need to take your paper map out on your farm. You can just take your phone. Most of you will be familiar with using Google Maps to find and locate towns, businesses, get directions, etc., which is great because Google My Maps is pretty much the same. The only difference is you can actually add your point, line, and polygon features to your map and customize it and make it your own. If you do want to create an accurate map where accurate locations are vital, where you can measure the length of fence lines or paddock areas, I would recommend looking at the other applications, particularly QGIS. The Google My Maps will meet the needs of creating a farm plan for the planning purposes. So Google My Maps, you can share your map, you can print your map, you can download your features in a KML file. Your map is stored online and you can access it via Google Maps mobile app as well as on your computer. So you'll need a Google account and you'll need internet access, and the skill level is basic. The next step up from Google My Maps is Google Earth Pro and ArcGIS Earth. Google Earth Pro, you can add and edit your features. You can save your map as an image. You can email your map, print your map. You can import data from different formats, and you can export your data to a KML or a KNZ. You can also view your map in 3D. So you can see this ridgeline in the foreground here has popped out, and it's 3D. So if I switch back to Google My Maps, here's the same ridgeline, and it's in 2D, it's flat. So Google My Maps is a flat map. Google Earth Pro and ArcGIS Earth, you can view your maps in 3D. So with Google Earth Pro, you need a computer and you need to download the Google Earth Pro software. You also need an internet access so that you can view this satellite image. The skill level is basic to intermediate. The other thing with Google Earth Pro is your files are stored on your computer. So like Google Earth Pro, similar to Google Earth Pro, this is ArcGIS Earth. So you can see the same little ridgeline has popped out. It's in 3D. The imagery is different because Google has their own satellites and they fly and capture their own imagery, whereas ArcGIS Earth, they do have different satellites, but they also use, for New Zealand example, they use the Regional Council aerial photography captures. So you'll have a better quality imagery, but not necessarily most up to date, whereas Google will have more up to date, but not necessarily better quality. So it's a bit of a trade-off. So like Google Earth Pro, in ArcGIS Earth, you can add and edit features. You can save your map as an image. You can email your map. You can print your map. You can import data from different formats. The thing that you can do in ArcGIS Earth that you can't do in Google Earth Pro is you can add data feeds or web services. So what this means is you've got your council map with all the different layers and the planning requirements. Each of those layers are a data feed or a web service, and you can access those web services and bring them into ArcGIS Earth. And then you can see how the rules and regulations will apply to your farm, or how your farming practices might be affected by the rules and regulations in the council's resource management plans. So like Google Earth Pro, you need a computer, you need to download the software, and you need internet access. So the skill level is basic to intermediate. And I say basic to intermediate, the same for Google Earth Pro, is because you can use the most basic tools and create your points, your lines and polygons, or you can take it to the next level and use the 3D functionality or bring in those web services and data feeds. At the top level is QGIS, and you can see straight away it's got so many different tools and menu items, and the whole look and feel is very much different from Google My Maps, Google Earth Pro and ArcGIS Earth. QGIS is a free high-level GIS application used for mapping, data analysis and cartography. Your map needs to be built from scratch by adding each layer into the map. So I use Word as a comparison. So the concept is much like building your Word document. When you open Word, you have a blank screen. When you open QGIS, you have a blank screen. You then need to compose your map and add your data and create your data, much like composing your Word document. So QGIS is a powerful application, enables you to add and edit features, save your map as an image, print your map, import and export data. You can also bring in LiDAR data. So a lot of the regional councils have been flying LiDAR data, capturing LiDAR data, and you can bring that into QGIS and have a look at the contours on your property. If you are handy with a drone, or maybe your children, or you know someone who is, and you've captured some drone aerials, you can even bring those into QGIS. You can also bring in those data feeds and web services from the council web maps as well. So QGIS, you need a computer and you need to download it, download the software. The skill level is advanced. So the next part of the presentation will show you how to use Google My Maps to create your farm map. To access Google My Maps, you can search for it in Google, or you can enter this URL at the top of the screen. The other thing I'll do in the chat is I'll paste links to all of those applications that I've been talking about in the previous slide. So links where you can download Google Earth Pro, ArcGIS Earth, and QGIS, and the link to access Google My Maps. So with Google My Maps, you need a Google account. And if you don't have a Google account, you'll need to create one. If you've got a Gmail email address, that means you've got a Google account. So once you go to the link and you're presented with the screen, you may not have these little thumbnails because you probably haven't been in there before, and you want to click on Create a New Map. So once you click on Create a New Map, you're presented with this map. You want to give your map a name and a description. So you click on Untitled Map, it comes up with a box which will let you give your map a name and a little box for the description. And underneath our map title and description is a layer, and it's called Untitled Layer. So you want to rename that to existing or current. So this is where you'll add in your existing or current farm features, such as your farm boundary, your waterways, your planting, your erosion-prone land. But how do you map your features when you can't actually see them? So Google My Maps defaults to Street View, where you can see your roads, you can see your streams, and you can see your ponds or your farm dam. So you can map your farm dam, you can map your stream, but how can I map my boundary, my waterways, or my planting that I've done? What you need to do is at the bottom of the layers screen, there's a base map selector. So you click on base map and it will drop down and give you a selection of base maps to choose from. So you want to switch over to the satellite image. So once you've done that, you can now see your farm and see your features. So you can start mapping by adding a line feature. So you click on this little funny line, add line or shape. So a good starting point is your farm boundary. And then add in your waterways, your water bodies, your farm race, your stock crossings, etc. So draw your features, give each of them a name and a colour for a theme. So I like to theme each of my features. So all the waterways, because water is generally blue, I like to colour all the water bodies and waterways blue. Critical source areas, because they identify a level of risk, I would colour them depending on the level of risk. So yellow might be low risk, orange might be moderate risk, and red might be high risk. We can then add a new layer and call it Planned 2021-2022. And this is for all your planned works. And in this layer, you can add in your planned fencing, your planned planting, all your planned activities that you'd like to do in the next financial year. And as before, draw in your features and give each feature a name and a colour. And you can see here, I've got this new layer called Future. So this is where you would add in activities that you'd like to do, but you don't have the budget for, or you haven't set the time frame for. So these might be activities that you need to do because of legislative requirements that are coming online in the next 5 to 10 years. So you can identify them in there. So now that you've mapped all your features, you do have an option to save your data to your computers. You might want to do this as a backup, or you might want to share your map, your layer, to a third party. And this is quite handy if you're going to do a collaboration. So if you don't want to, you don't need to worry about downloading your data, because Google automatically saves your map and any changes to it as you go. Your map is saved online in your Google account. But if you want to export out your KML or your KNZ, you have that option too. You can print your map to a PDF And this will be quite useful if you want to put it into your farm environment plan, like the complete document. This function, though, is hit and miss because sometimes you get features. Sometimes some of the features don't come out on your PDF map. So I'll demo that as well. But it's good to have, good to be able to export it out to PDF. And I'll show you like that, because it is hit and miss. I'll show you what it does, and I'll show you a workaround in the demo. So you can also share your map. If you want to share your map, I would recommend sharing by a link, enable link sharing. So what this means is anyone with this link can view and access your map. I would discourage using public, sharing by public, because that means everyone on the internet can find and view your map. So why would you want to share your map? You might want to share your map so your land care coordinator might be able to give you a hand with some of your mapping, or you might want to set up a collaboration where a group of you, your neighbours, want to combine all your mapping into one map. So you'll be able to do that. So now we'll go on to the demo. So I've gone to Google My Maps, and you can see these are all the little maps that I've been making for all the webinars over the last week. And what we're going to do today is we're going to start from scratch. So I haven't got anything prepared. So I'll click on Create a New Map. And I do have a little property that I'd like to Flaxmore Road is where I'd like to go. I have family links to Flaxmore Road. This is where my mother grew up. So I thought it'd be quite a good place to start. So I've got my location. I'm going to give my map a name. I'm going to call it Flaxmore. And you can put in a little description in here. And then we've got this layer here called Untitled. So I'm going to call that Current. And now, as I said before, how do I map my features when I can't see them? So I'll go to the base map selector and I'll switch over to the satellite. So the property that I would like to start on is this one here, goes up around there. So to start with, I'll map in my property boundary. So when you're drawing in your polygon shapes, you select your line, select the line, and then I'll show you how you can close off your line to create your polygon. Right, so now I want to close off my polygon. To close off my polygon, I double click on the same point that I started with. And there we go. So there's my polygon. So I'm going to call this my farm boundary. And I can give it a color. So I actually want it to be transparent. You can make it solid or transparent by sliding the polygon transparency to the left or the right. And the same goes with the border width. So we'll make it a little bit thicker, and I keep it black. And the other thing with this little pop-up, it tells you how big my polygon is, it's half a square kilometre, and the perimeter of it, the boundary is just over 4 kilometres long. So this is only going to be as accurate as you map it. So you can see I did cut some corners. I've got lots of straight lines in here. I haven't got any nice little curves. So it's just a guideline. So the next thing I'd like to do is map in these waterways. So these little streams. And you double click to finish your line feature. And because water is generally blue, I like to colour it blue. And then with your waterways, depending on how prominent the stream is, if it's a river, you can make it quite thick. Or if it's a minor stream or a ephemeral stream where there's only water in it during the winter, you can make it thinner. So you can change the line thickness as well. And I want to map in this little vegetation as well. So this might have been planting roots that the property owner has done over the time. So we'll just call that planting. And we can give it a colour. And again, trees are green, so I'll make it green. But when you're using green, because this is quite dry here, it's going to show up. But in the greeny areas, may not. You've got to fiddle around with your green colours. So there's a little wetland around here. So I'm going to map the little wetland as well. So you just go through your property and map in your features. And the best place to start is with your current features. And then you can start working on a plan. So the other one I'd like to do is map in these. So these are like overland flow paths. So they might only have water in them in the winter. But it's good to know in terms of your critical source. So I might just make that yellow. So we can map those in. Oh, flow, not flood. And down here. So it looks like they've got like a little farm dam in here. So I'll map on the little farm dam. So that just gives you an example of mapping all your current. And as you're mapping your current, so I've mapped in these overland flow paths. I've mapped in that little dam up there as well. And you can see there's another little overland flow path or wetland along here that you might want to map as well. So I'll just map that in as a stream waterway at this stage. Because in the future, you might want to plant that out. So you can see they've done some planting down here. So we can map that in as well. So the next part is, as I'm mapping these features in, I'm thinking about what I'd like to do in the next financial year. So I'll add a layer. And I'll call it planned 2021, 2022. So go back up here. So I've got that area down there that I think I could do some planting along there. And then the comments box here, you can say what type of planting. So this looks like a wetland type area. So you could say wetland infill planting, and you can put in the species that you'd like to plant in there as well. I save that. And again, it gives me the area of that little polygon. So it's 1/2 hectare. So you can work out how many plants you'll need depending on the spacing and the species. And then if you're going to fence it off, it just tells you it's 608 meters. So you can work out when you go to fence that off, depending on what sort of fencing. If it's just going to be a 3-wire post fence, you can work out what sort of materials you'll need. So with this little farm dam up here, you might want to put a fence around it. So I can say fence. We'll give that a colour. So there you go, it's a 105 metre fence. And you can say you just want a 3-wire post fence. No planting, I didn't give it a colour, trees are green. And then you can go, okay, so you might be moving your stock from this side to this side, and you've got this little drain through here, this waterway through here. So I'll map that in. In fact, I'm going to cancel that and I'm going to delete that because I'd like to put that into my current. So you can see that puts it into planned. I want to put it into current. So how do you tell which layer you're going to be adding your features to? In your layers, on the left is a subtle blue bar. So if I click on planned, you can see the blue bar changes to planned. I click on current, it's got a blue bar on the left of the layer. So I'm going to put in this. I'll delete that because I hit the wrong button. I'm going to draw in this waterway. And so in planned, we might want to put in a stock crossing there. So you click on add marker and you can say stock crossing. So in 2021, 2022, we're going to putting in a stock crossing here. So in the winter, they don't pug up the waterway. So you can see this, it's got a little marker here. And when I do my mapping, I like the markers and the features to be able to be self-explanatory. So when you look at the map, you can tell like the blue lines will be water, the green will be vegetation, but this little marker is not very self-explanatory. So I can edit, I can change the style of that. And you can see these little icons here. If I click on more icons, there's a whole library of icons. In stock crossing, usually it's stock, such as a cow that's going to be using it. So I can search for cow, and there's my little cow. So I can change that to a little cow. And the other thing where that might be useful is if you identify a critical source point. So if I go back to current, and if I say, okay, so there might be a stock crossing here, which is a critical source point because the water's flowing down here and into the dam. It's going to affect my water quality. So I can add in a stock crossing here. So this is an existing stock crossing. See, and because I used my little cow before, my cow is there. And this is a critical source point. So I'm going to colour it yellow because it's a level of risk, or it might be a moderate level of risk. So I can give it orange. And then in your planned, you can put in some remedial works in there. So you can say, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change and not use that as a stock crossing, change my crossing or my access to that area some other way. So you've actually got a crossing up here, so we can put one up here. So this is an existing stock crossing. Which is actually a critical source point too, because you can see the water is going to flow down through there. But because it's already built up, the impact is going to be minor because it looks like a well-formed crossing. So the other way, the other thing that you might want to do, you know, when you use in your planned, you can use the little tree symbols. So you can say, we want to do some planting here. And you can represent your planting in terms of, say, a tree. So you got these different trees. Trees are green. So you can use the marker symbols to map in your planting, but I prefer to use the polygons because then you can get the area and then you can work out from that how many trees you might require for your planting area. So if we're mapping that little strip down there that we're going to plant out in 2021, 2022, and then you can put in your species in here, whatever plant species that you're going to be planting. And then from that, you can say it's approximately 0.3 hectares. Then you can work out, depending on your plant spacings, how many plants you require for that area. And then we can add another layer. And we can call this future. So Annie talked about the carbon emissions and those sorts of things. So this is where this forestry block here, you'd map in that because that would be your carbon sink. And so you can calculate based on the area and the type of trees, how much carbon so this might be carbon sink. So you can work out, I think it was Beef and Lamb had a calculator where you can work out what your carbon, and then you can use that for your like emission trading scheme. So what we can do in there is we'll edit this and we'll go carbon sink and we'll call it ETS. So now that we've mapped our little farm, so I haven't done a comprehensive map here. I've just shown you the functionality and just give you ideas of what you could possibly map. So from here we can print our map. So these three little dots in a horizontal line, it's called a chevron. Click on that and then click on print map. And we want it to be A4. or you could choose A3, depending if you've got an A3 printer. A4 is typical size. And because our farm is like a portrait orientation, we'll select portrait page orientation, and then I'll click print. And you can see this is the result. So you can see here, if I go back to the map, I was zoomed in quite nice, and that's the extent that I wanted. But when I hit print, it zoomed me out to bring in the whole neighborhood, and that's not what I want on my map. But we did get most of our features come through, so that's really good, because sometimes some of these features fall off. So yes, so that's fine, that's pretty good. So all you do is just zoom in again. We'll close that one. And we'll try again. We'll go A4 and go print. So that's pretty good. It's getting there. But if it's not behaving for you, what you can do is just take a screenshot of your map of your farm and copy that and paste it into Word, and then you can take a same screenshot of your legend items and copy and paste that into Word. Or if there's a farm environment plan template, you can copy and paste that into that. So the other thing you can do is you can export your data to a KML or a KMZ. And so this is where you can email the data to a third party. Or the other thing that you can do with this, if you decide that Google My Maps doesn't have the functionality that you would like, and you'd like to try Google Earth Pro or ArcGIS Earth or even QGIS, you can export what you've done in Google My Maps. You can export that out to a KML or a KMZ, and you can open that up in one of the other applications. So you've got an option here, you can export out the entire map, and what that means is my current, my planned, and my future layers. Or you can just say, I only want to export out my current or my planned or my future. So I generally select entire map. And then you can share your map as well. So you click on the little share button, and this is where you enable link sharing. So anyone with this link can view your map. If I click on public everyone, it means everyone on the internet can view your map, can find and access your map. So I'll just untick those and close that. And so the other thing I'd like to show you is the top of the south maps. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. This is your local council mapping system. And in here, you can map your features. You can get the more recent up-to-date aerial photography. You can get measurements, and you can view in all the different layers as well. So you've got your planning layers where you can view in your planning zones. But the only thing with this one, with top of the south maps, is any little edits that you do in here, any mapping that you do in here is not saved. So that's where Google My Maps is better in that respect. So the other thing that you might want to know how to do is, so I've got my little farm. Oh yes, you can export your top of the south map to a PDF as well. So any of the drawings and annotations that you've done on your map, you can export that with your map out to a PDF, but you can't go back to it tomorrow and see all your little annotations and all your mapping. So with my farm here, I want to know where am I? What catchment am I in? So I've actually figured out what catchment I am in, but you might want to know whereabouts within that catchment you're in. So what you can do is you can add a layer, and you can bring in layers as well. So I have downloaded the Muteri catchment previously, and I want to import that into my map here so I can see whereabouts my farm sits within that catchment. So I'll just delete that piece. So here's the Moutere catchment, and you can see there's my farm within the catchment. So it's just on the eastern edge. So that might be quite useful as well. And that will be quite useful in terms of collaboration as well. So I know Annette has told me that the Moutere catchment is very active with their planting. So you can, instead of doing a farm focused map, you can do a catchment focused map where you collaborate and map in all of your planting and all of the good work that you've been doing on one map. And we're also working on a solution as well with that. I wondered if somebody was going to ask, where do you get your catchment maps from? So where I got that catchment from, you can ask Annette, and Annette would be a good place to start. Otherwise, there's Ministry for Environment has this big data store, and it's got lots of environmental data, such as catchments. So you can see, if I search it for catchment here, there's 62 different results for catchment, and this is where it gets quite complicated, and this is where Annette will be able to help you as well. So the 62 results includes all sorts of documents and layers and metadata. So you want to select layers. And then the one that I've downloaded was the catchment order 5. So that's your Moutere catchment. So to be able to get that into your map, into your Google My Map or any of the other applications, mapping applications, you'll need to register with this website. And the other thing I'll do is I'll copy out this link so that you can copy it out of the chat and come back to it later. So you sign in and you register to this website, and then you can find your layer that you want. So I've got my catchment order 5, and you select a crop. And the reason why I select a crop is otherwise you're going to end up with the whole of New Zealand. So all I want is that catchment. I can read you all my crop because all I want is that one catchment. And then you click download. And what you want to select is Google Earth KML. So this is compatible with Google Earth, Google My Maps. But you can also open up this in QGIS as well. QGIS is really good in that it can open up all sorts of different formats, all sorts of data from different formats. So when you're downloading from this data store, you want your layer to be less than 5 megabytes. So you see this one's less than 1 megabyte, so that's good. So the reason why you want less than 5 megabytes is so Google My Maps won't be able to import it if it's any bigger. So, so it's less than 1 megabyte. We've got our Google KML format, and I accept terms and create download. So that then creates your little KML that you can then bring into your Google My Maps. Yes, I'm not sure about Google My Maps and Waikato Regional Council's online portal, because I'm not quite sure what the Waikato Regional Council online portal will look like. But again, yeah, I don't know what it's going to look like. So sorry, can't answer that question. If you've got any other questions or anything else that you'd like to know how to do, pop them in the chat and I'll see if I can answer them.
I mean, there's just something I wanted to add, which I meant to add at the beginning. A hand-drawn map off a farm map could be a really good start. So obviously that doesn't calculate all the areas, but if you are feeling completely overwhelmed by it, you can just start with your farm map and draw it in. And that's how I would start, and get all your features and things there, and have a little bit of a plan. And then under the beef and lamb environmental module, which, you know, it does not apply to what Tasman or Nelson or Marlborough or whatever the regional councils that you're in may require, but they're recommending that, you know, you can actually just start with a hand-drawn map, just get your environmental plan through. But long term, as you know, you'll be updating and you'll be doing lots of things. So you do want to, I think anyway, transfer it into some sort of electronic mapping that can calculate the area and the lengths, and you won't be scribbling all over your map. So yeah, and also, as you will all know, you know, being able to measure things is great for your planning as well. There's also mapping systems that are available through your fertilizer companies as well, that you could use. But yeah, this is one that would be under, using these sort of mappings would be under your permanent sort of control. So yep, there are all sorts of other, somebody's mentioned Hawkeye maps. I don't know much about them. Do you know anything about Hawkeye maps? I'm assuming that's one of the fertilizer companies, is it? But yeah, any sort of mapping system will be.
Yeah, so I think that's a great idea. If just starting with the paper map, if using the Google My Maps is overwhelming, just starting with the paper map, because then at least it gets your ideas down on paper and it's a good place to start. And if it is overwhelming, that's why Google My Maps is also the next step up. It's the next step up from a paper map. Really good place to start. It's a really basic, easy to use tool, and you're not going to break it, because you can't break Google. You might freeze your screen, so you just close it down and open it up again.
Oh, yes, we've got a idea that maybe we should include this as part of the senior net things. Also, you know, ask for help. I mean, I'm available here to help. I've actually just learnt quite a bit off that. I thought I knew how to use Google My Maps, but Dianne, I've learnt quite a lot, so that's awesome. Are there any other questions that anybody would like to ask? Now's your time. Unfortunately, you just have to type them.
Oh, that's great. It's great that you got a lot out of it too, Annette.
The other thing I want to say about farm environment planning maps is, don't do this for the government. Do this for yourself. Do this for your next generation of people that are coming along on your farm. Do it to add value to your farm. You can just imagine if you were going out to buy a farm and somebody had done all this environmental planning, had put in the waterways, fenced off their waterways, looked after their wetlands and things, your farm's going to be worth more. So do this for yourself. Do it because I know that the farm assurance projects are coming in. I attended a climate forum for agricultural emissions. We produce some of the lowest carbon emission products in the world. And there are a number of really exciting technologies that are on the way that'll even drop that even further. So there's going to be a very strong need to have an environmental story behind your products. So do it so that your New Zealand products will be worth more in the world stage. You know, it may be that the only way that we can sell products into some high value markets is if we have a really good environmental story behind our food and what we produce. So do it for the future of New Zealand. yeah, do it for yourselves. Don't worry about it. And my recommendation to you. Hopefully you could hear that because it says my internet's unstable.
I think that's really great, actually a really great point. We took on a farm where it was my father's farm. He passed away suddenly, and so we took over his farm, and we didn't know where he put all his water pipes, and so there was all these water leaks, and we didn't know which dam was connected to which trough. So if he had sat down and mapped out all his waterways, and we've spent years trying to figure this out, trying to figure out where all the taps are. So yes, do it for your future generations. It's a really, really good idea.
And it's not just, I worked for the biggest privately owned sheep and beef station in the North Island, and we had an identical problem. Nobody knew. We had to have a full-time person who spent most of their time trying to find where the pipes went. So there's lots of benefits of mapping. And for those of you that are in the Moutere catchment, this is a great way to do your planting plans. So for others also, if you're putting in applications to various funds that are available for planting plans, or you're doing billion trees application, for instance, all of these need to be mapped as well. So there's other reasons for doing it as well. Okay. Yep. Yeah, Joe's mentioned that it's also very useful. We're trying to start a Motueka catchment. It's also very useful for the sub-catchments to find out what they're doing with each other. Yeah. And yes, if anybody's got any bright ideas about what we should do from here to help you all with your farm mapping, please let us know. We can run events. Maybe we could get a group together within a catchment and do some of this. And yeah, reminder that there is an excellent farm environment planning thing in the Upper Moutere Hall in June 18th, and they're running them around the country as well for beef and lamb. Excellent. Are there any more questions people are wanting to ask?
Well, thank you so much for coming today. It's really good to see everyone. It's a really good turnout, and I hope it makes it easier for you going forward to map your farm or map your catchment.
Yes, and my heartfelt thanks for the turnout at this event. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Right. Shall we finish? There's no final questions or comments? Yeah, Joe, I'll see what I can do with that. I have no idea, but I do have a family member that attends Senior Net, so I'll no doubt get some contacts from there. It would be a good idea. I actually think it would be a great idea to try and get access to quite a few computers and have people come in and map their farms together if people would like to do that. We could probably also run it via schools. So at the Upper Moutere Hall on the 18th of June, Libby, is the Beef and Lamb Farm Environment Plan module, which would be suitable which can be attended by any levy payers of beef and lamb. You have to book in. It's probably more suitable for proper big commercial farms, but they go through their farm plan environmental module book. But basically any levy payer is required. The last one that was done over in the Motueka catchment with Tash was booked out. So if you are wanting to go, book in. So there's obviously a lot of interest because we haven't had to have farm environment plans in this region. So we haven't had in the past good attendance at the beef and lamb environment one, but because there was such great attendance at that last one, they were running another one. So if you are thinking of wanting to do this and you are a beef and lamb levy payer, I recommend you book that quickly. Okay, right on the dot, and I think we've run out of questions.
Okay, I'll end the webinar now. Thank you.
And you will all be getting a recording of this, so that when you're sitting there thinking, I can't remember how to do this, you'll be able to look it up on your recording.
Cool.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.